I would like to thank Eric, Rabbi Yaffe, very much for the very warm introduction. I would point out that when I had indicated to the board that I did not think that there had ever been the type of friendship or the close relationship between the union and the college that obtains to the present moment and that exists between Rabbi Yaffe and myself. You may remember that someone did correct me immediately, and they said that they imagined that when Rabbi Isaac Mayer Wise was the head of both the union and the college, that the relationship at that point might have been even closer, but I suppose it depended on which kippah he was or was not wearing during that period. But seriously, it is a great, great honor and pleasure to be here with you. I do not think of our institutions, the Union for Reform Judaism and Hebrew Union College, in any way other than the fact that we are both engaged in a common task. On the one hand, I have always been a believer or an opponent of what Rabbi Leo Beck, the great leader of world progressive Judaism, called an adjectival Judaism. A Judaism where the adjective, whether it be reform, conservative, orthodox, was more important than the noun Judaism. And so on the one hand, I would not, on one level, celebrate denominationalism, but now that I have said that, what I do celebrate is the approach that our reform movement takes, an authentic approach to tradition, rooted in the Torah, rooted in the enduring values and principles that we have in our tradition, and the application from the stances that we have taken in regard to patrilineal descent, to the study of Torah itself, to the initiatives that Rabbi Yaffe articulated for us yesterday in his leadership of our people. What I would say to you as we close this biennial, and I am grateful for this opportunity to recite a few words before you, is that we need to keep in mind that what stands at the very heart of our approach in the reform movement to Judaism are values that are enduring, that stand at the very center of our faith, and we must have the courage to apply those values. Within the tradition, of course, it is permissible up until Tuesday night, depending upon when one recites Havdalah, to recite the word Shavua Tov. And when one looks at the Havdalah ceremony, there is a Mishnah that I would relate to you that I think speaks very, very directly to the values that stand at the core of our tradition, that we in the Reform movement in particular champion. There is a debate recorded in the Mishnah in Brachot between the house of Hillel, Beit Hillel, and Beit Shammai over what is the appropriate blessing to recite over the Havdalah candle. Within the halakha, it is required that an Havdalah candle have at least 2 wicks. It can have more, but there have to be at least 2. Because it is in accord with this debate in the Talmud, in the Mishnah, where Beit Shammai says that the blessing we should recite is, "Praised art thou, eternal our God, Baram or Ha'esh." You, God, created past tense the light, singular, of the fire. But as all of you know who celebrate Havdalah, we recite the words, not Baram or Ha'esh, not who created past tense the light, singular, of the fire, but rather we recite the words, Borei Ma'orei Ha'esh. God who creates every day, Ma'orei, the lights, plural, of the fire. According to our commentators on that verse, the reason why we recite the word lights as opposed to light, and why we recite the word creates as opposed to created, is that creation is not a process that was done once and for all many, many, many thousands of years ago. Rather, creation is an ongoing process, and God calls each and every one of us to the task of the world each and every day to engage in that process of creation. And we say lights of the fire because there is not a single light that God gave to humanity. Rather, we have plural wicks, and we recite this blessing in the plural because according to rabbinic tradition and halakha, Jewish law, the lights represent both the gift of light, the gift of creation given by God to humanity, but then the obligation of humanity to employ that light in an appropriate way. The very words, Ma'orei ha'esh, lights of the fire, is a testimony to the covenantal relationship that exists between God and the Jewish people. And unlike Greek mythology, where Prometheus has to go up into the heavens and steal the light and then is punished eternally, in our tradition, God freely gives us the light and calls upon us to be partners with the divine in the work of this world. That belief, the belief in a covenantal relationship that informs Jewish religious tradition at its very core, serves as the essence of what we as Reformed Jews believe. We are shutafim, we are partners with God in the act of creation, and we must engage in the ongoing story of Jewish religious tradition. God needs us to repair the world. God is in search of us. In the Kaddish prayer, and with this last teaching I will conclude, in the Kaddish prayer, in traditional synagogues, there is only one line that the entire congregation, not mourners, are required to recite. And that line is, Yehei Shmei Rabba Mavorach Li'olam Olomei Omaya. May God's great name be exalted now and forever. The Kabbalist commenting upon this note, why is it that the halakha requires the recitation by the entire congregation of at least this one line? And that is because, and you can now count it later, there are 28 letters in that line. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mavarach Li'olam Olomei Omaya. That corresponds in gematria to Koach, 28, which means strength. God needs us to act in the world if God's strength is to be manifest. We in the Reform movement are authentic Jews. We draw upon the tradition, the deeds that we are called upon to perform, the challenges issued to us by our leader, Rabbi Yaffe, yesterday, and in every biennial by Rabbi Schindler, by Rabbi Eisendrath, remain part of our eternal legacy. What we are called upon today is to understand what our covenantal responsibility is as partners with God in the very act of creation. I pray, and indeed I am confident, that we will continue to meet these challenges, that we will move as a movement from strength to strength. And in this way, the students who emerge from the Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion, who serve and inspire and guide you, our congregants who work so diligently and faithfully in our congregations, as you touch and create community in your own synagogues and throughout the larger world, I am confident that we will continue to be, as we are required to be, a blessing. And may God bless us so that we move together, acting in this world, from strength, mechayo lechayo, from strength to ever greater strength. Thank you.